for me as a journalist, like, I also need to take my time off my day-to-day schedule and just spend some time with the kids so that when you just listen to them off the camera, off the mic, off the recorder, you'll hear a lot about what they want us to tell. So I was asking them, like, what will you want us to report about? Like, like, we don't even have spaces to play. So can that be a story? They'll never get to know, like, I have a dad, I used to have a mom, I used to have a brother or a sibling. So it was a story idea, like, to just amplify these voices of these kids who are abandoned in society and to make the society aware, like, legally, this is what it takes if you come across a child who is abandoned. This is what you need precaution.
Hello from wherever you are watching, and welcome to B418, your #1 program that focuses on people that are impacting the lives of children and children that are doing unique things. My name is Collins Orono. Today we have an interesting guest on set. Karibu sana Bwana Tom.
Thank you, Collins.
Tumetafutana sana, and I'm happy that today we are here. Finally.
Yes, my brother.
Lakini, first of all, before you even introduce yourself, you have so many things that you've done, and I'm so happy and I'm so impressed, especially learning from you, especially on children issues. Now, let me give you the chance. Tell us about what you do and how your life story
began,
where it all started.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my name is Thomas Bwire. I'm a journalist based in Nairobi, Kenya, Kibera Slums. Currently, I'm a co-founder at a media startup called Habari Kibra. It's a data journalism institute whereby we try to train young people on how to tell community stories, but looking at a solution-based approach. So, but just to take you back about how my life started.
Yes.
I remember, like, when I used to be in primary school, like years back. I used to love to watch cartoons a lot, and I used to be like, okay, what are these things? How are they made? And like, just looking on the TV, watching them, you could see like they used to have a storyline, especially like the kind of Tom and Jerry, and you see like they're fighting, but that is what our society is about today. Like, we fight about resources. Yeah. I'm fighting my brother, I'm fighting my sister, I'm fighting my neighbor. At some point I was like, I want to become a cartoon producer, and people used to think like, Tom, why do you want to become a cartoon producer? This is not even fun. But for me, there's something that was just captivating every day. Like, I kept watching them, and then at some point, when I was like around in class 5, I got to meet one of the mentors. Like, now he's in the US. So he also used to be like in the journalism club in our primary school. That is Gilgil Garrison Primary School in Gilgil, Nakuru County, and he could just like share, this is what about journalism entails. So I started to gain interest. So every Sunday, my dad used to buy a newspaper. So like this were Taifa Leo and The Nation. So I'll take some time, just especially the children's cover, the children's stories. So just read, and it got me to be more interested. And then when this guy, he's called Zablon Odhiambo, when he went to high school, then went to college, he went to KMC. So every time like he came home, we just meet, and then he shared like, but this is what it means to be in a journalism class. So I kept on checking with him, like he just shared a lot of stories about journalism, until after I finished high school. That's when I was like, I also want to become a journalist. So that's how it started. Yep. So I also went to college, did my diploma. I first did a diploma in mass communication. But you see, when you go to school now, the system then didn't guide you to say you can specialize in maybe children reporting, you can specialize in this kind of reporting. So it was just general, like, you're
a journalist generally.
Journalist. So like for me, like, I want to become like a newscaster.
Yeah. Because
I used to see Kinasolemde on TV, like, that's the thing I want to be.
Yes.
But when you go now to the real newsroom, like, do I really want to become a presenter? No. That's not my thing. I want to be more in the field. I don't want just to be on the screens and then that's it.
Yeah.
Because it comes with fame. But the field, that's where you meet sources, you talk to the people, they're telling you your stories. So eventually when I was able to join Pamoja FM as a trainer, because when they were starting, so I came like in 2007 as a trainer. So that's when I started to get in touch with the community. Like you go out, talk to families, you go to our case study, you go to a family setup, and you see their story. Like, you know, people are just very genuine telling their story. And we were telling stories more of adults, but the children are missing in the storytelling. So like it's a mother maybe suffering from HIV, and they are sharing their story. But what about the child? So as a person, I was like, okay, fine. I think as Kenyan journalists, we are missing. There's a voice that is missing in our storytelling. Can I start also thinking about how I can also get a voice of a child to be heard? So eventually, like through some trainings that I also went as a journalist, like different media workshops, I got to want to learn about how to report about children. So it didn't come that fast, so fast, like that interest, like now to say now I've really gotten in my space to start telling about children's stories. But at some point, like in 2018, I was able to get like a 1-year media fellowship program with International Center for Journalists. So basically what it means that I was the only male journalist from Kenya. So, and we were in a program with other journalists from the world, like Asia, Europe, and other African countries. So basically like we were attached to a mentor. So we went through some training on how to ethically report about children. And then also every month producing like 2 stories. And the catch was like if you produce a story, you're paid. If you don't produce a story, you're not paid. So that was also a motivation. So basically like it took us to like, so we also had 2 international trips to South Africa and Geneva, also just to cover major events, like child-related events. And from there, I was like, can I just maybe make a turnaround and see how can I now start getting my footing into the children's space. So basically now, so in 2019 I was able to apply for a story opportunity with the Media Monitoring Africa, whereby like they were telling people to pitch a story idea in April. It's a child-focused idea, so pitch a story idea, and then it's shortlisted for an award. So I did a story about like because I went in the field first, talked to the children, and get to understand, you know, what are the issues. Because for me as a child, like I remember I used to play a lot, but when you come to the city, the spaces were shrinking. So our kids were more confined in small spaces. They're not playing enough. That means that in the early years, if my child is able to play soccer, and when they grow up, that talent will just disappear at some point. So talking to some kids are like, oh, but we don't have spaces to play around. So I went to speak to the children like in the ghetto, and it just randomly too, like with consent with the parent, like, you know, what are the issues that affect you guys as kids? Oh, they're like, oh, but they're Tom. So I used to be called like Uncle Tom. So Uncle Tom, you know, you media, you just tell bad stories about us. We see stories about rape, or maybe a child is defiled. So like, okay, so that's how you guys see us, about how we report about you. But so I was asking them like, what will you want us to report about? Like, you know, like we don't even have spaces to play. So can that be a story? Like, see where we're playing, like in these trenches. I remember it was in a dirty, whereby like the water was just very dirty black, and that's where kids were just playing. So this kid was telling me like, hey, but then Uncle Tom, see where we play. Suppose you do this story, and then the government can see this story and say, oh, but then can we improve on playing grounds? Can we just have something positive for our community? So that's how I was like, oh, this is a good idea. So I did the pitch, and I was shortlisted as a finalist among the 6 finalists in Kenya. And I went to do the story. So I did the story like in Kibera. So for Kibera, it was a problem. Because it's a bigger portion is the ghetto and tiny houses. So playgrounds that are big here are only found like in public school, like Olympic Primary School, Ayani Primary School. That's where we have the spaces kids can play. But when they come home over the weekends or during the school holidays, they're confined into those small spaces. So that was the problem like in Kibera. So basically I also went to Korogosho, and there I found like young people who had transformed a dumping site into a green space. So for Kibera, that was the problem. But when we got to Korogosho, they came up with an idea like, okay, fine, these spaces can also be used to play. So that as a parent, I don't have to take my child to Uhuru Park because it's expensive. If I take a bus to Uhuru Park, it's free, yes, but at Uhuru Park, I'll have to pay for a child to play. Yeah. So that's how I turned around on how to now start telling stories about children, yeah, and also just having them to air their stories.
So, what have you learned, just having worked in this space of media and children, especially in doing children's stories?
For me, children have stories to tell. And for me as a journalist, I also need to take my time off my day-to-day schedule and just spend some time with the kids so that when you just listen to them off the camera, off the mic, off the recorder, you'll hear a lot about what they want us to tell. Because sometimes we'll go out there with a judgmental angle to say, to think this is how I think the child should tell the story. Yes. But when you give them a chance to share, you'll get to understand ideas from them. You'll learn something from them. And even how to respect their privacy, also how to just respect their identity, and also how to just in a dignified way to tell their story better. Yes.
So what are the biggest fear for children, especially in the small areas, in the slum areas where you work in and report in? What are the key issues that you've come to realize about children?
The emotion is stressed because of the day-to-day life pressure from maybe parents don't have enough money, maybe they didn't have food at home. So you find that they also traumatized. They also have trauma. They also have their own trauma. Because in December I did a story about child trauma. But this girl was just pushed by the parents' pressures. The parents are so pressured. Huh? Yeah. So the girl ended up getting pregnant because of the pressures from home. No one was listening to her. But at some point she got a teacher who gave her listening ear, and she was able to tell her story. But at home, there's so much pressure from home because parents are so stressed. Some parents don't have a stable income. So no one is giving them a voice to say, can I listen to my child? Can I just can we eat dinner together? Let's get to hear from Colin. Let's get to hear from Tom. What are your concerns as a child? That space is missing in our society today. Yeah. Yes.
And maybe what can media do, especially in making this space available for children?
We need to do more. We need to amplify their voices. We need to increase our storytelling in the spaces, both media like radio, TV, online, TV, newspapers. We need to have even just them participating to even tagging along with the child to say, okay, fine, please just come and see how I do my story. Then from there, they'll also have an interest to also want to be in that space. Yes.
So this year you've had a number of things that you've done. First of all, you were shortlisted for another award in South Africa. Tell us a little bit about that.
So thank you so much. So the story was about children who are abandoned, because those are kids that we don't even get to know about. They are there, yes, but as a society, it's a topic that people do fear to speak about. Kids will be a good Samaritan will pick a child, but legally they don't know the process on how to adopt this child. So you find that someone is just living with a child, but they don't have legal papers. And then for this child, they'll grow with a family and they'll never get to know about their relatives. They'll never get to know, I have a dad, I used to have a mom, I used to have a brother or a sibling. So it was a story idea to just amplify these voices of these kids who are abandoned in society, and to make the society aware, legally, this is what it takes. If you come across a child who is abandoned, this is what you need precautions. You need to report to the children's officer, you need to report to the chief, you need to report to the children's home, so that legally you don't get yourself into trouble. Because I did a story about this mother who raised an abandoned child, but eventually she was allegedly accused that she stole a child, and she ended up serving a prison term for a year because she didn't know the process of legally adopting a child. Yes. So it was just a story to bring attention to the public, this is what it entails to adopt a child in a society.
Yeah, and maybe after publishing that story, what are some of the feedback that you got from it? What happened?
Actually, this lady raising this child has gotten some well-wishers. They want to support the child, to buy uniform and supplies for their school. But also, I got a call from a lawyer oh, Tom, can we talk to this lady does she want to get compensation from the government because she served a term illegally? So a lawyer wanted to take up the case and see how she can be able to get compensation from the state. Yes.
How does it feel for you when you do a story about a child or children, then maybe you receive positive feedback like that one?
I think it makes me feel like appreciated. It makes me feel like at least my work didn't just go into the vein, but at least somebody was able to notice what I was able to make a difference and also bring a problem and also a solution to the society.
So for you, telling children's stories, gives you that satisfaction, and maybe seeing such kind of feedback, brings that satisfaction to you. And now, how do you think media should cover children in Kenya, or are we doing enough as media to give children that coverage that they need?
I think if you compare, maybe say the last 3 years. We have tried to scale up voices of children a bit. Maybe I can say maybe around say 50%. But we still need to do more because we still have lots of negative stories about children in our mediums. And one of the ways that we can engage, especially like media champions, journalists who have an interest to tell stories about children, and take them through maybe some training and attach to a mentor, so that when they engage maybe say for a year, they can now scale up stories about you. They can scale more children-focused stories in their platforms.
So for you, like, what is lacking?
Like enough stories, enough content on children.
Yes. Because
we'll basically focus more on adult stories and less children stories. And we only give them like a voice, like maybe on a Saturday or Sunday when you have a children's show. But during the entire week, we don't have so much content on children.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that needs to be done more.
Yes.
So what is your parting shot, perhaps, as we conclude this conversation?
Let's go out there. Let's engage the children with consent from parents. Let's just get to hear from them, and then from there, we can get most story ideas from a child, and just continue to create more content on children. Yes.
So for you, what is your vision for Habari Kibera, and especially on amplifying the voices of children?
So my parting shot for Habari Kibera is basically to engage more young people who don't have journalism skills, to be able to take them through the basics of storytelling. And then from there, they can help me and the team to amplify voices on children by just coming out and going in the field to just give a child a voice.
Yeah.
Yes. Through the power of the microphone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we have a summit that is coming up, a summit for children, giving children from Africa space to speak up and on their issues. What do you think of such a summit?
Yes, it's a good thing for Africa, so that I hope we'll also have kids who will just be there to also just share their stories, and even for us as storytellers, we'll be there to also just amplify the conference. But even before that, I think we need to have produced more content that we can also just share with the people, so that it doesn't just it's a conference and then from there we go back to the normal. We just go back to the normal routine. It needs to scale up more stories going forward.
Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of B418. We were hosting Mr. Thomas Bwire, a journalist in Kibera. He covers children's stories, and as you've heard from him, he has some very, very interesting story on how he's working with children in Kibera. My name is Colin Sorono. See you again next week.